We're live.
All right, we are here, rocking and rolling. This is day 2 of Teacher Training Sneak Peek. So yesterday I'm John, this is Chris. I'm assuming you know who he is, not me. I'm John Yax, this is Chris Yax, but you know who that is. So Teacher Training Sneak Peek, we're here, we're doing Teacher Training Sneak Peek. We are dropping into some of the core principles, the 3 major secrets of teacher training, and a lot of these secrets are what keep people from even, they have this inner urge, like, I want to do what they do, I want to do what that person does, it looks so awesome. And then all of these false beliefs keep them from doing it, or make them think they are not the person to do it. So
we have a teacher who's phenomenal. I'm just cutting him off real quick. And like she's phenomenal. And when she went to teacher training, she said, she had wanted to do it for years. And she's like, I just knew it was inside. And she made all these excuses about why it wasn't the right time, and how she didn't prepare, and how maybe her voice wasn't ready, and all this stuff that was literally just like what John talked about, just these beliefs that are just false. They're just literally lies that we tell ourselves to keep us from stepping into that new phase, that thing that you love, that you want to do, that new passion that you found, that you want to share. It's just like we lie to ourselves about it. And so that's why we wanted to approach this teacher training sneak peek in this way, because it's really important that we just address it. Because if those are the things that are keeping you back, man, we want to help you overcome that and move through it, so that you can do the thing that you feel called to do.
Yeah. So yesterday we covered. So again, if you didn't see yesterday's training, you gotta go back and see yesterday's training. It was good. I mean, I'm a little biased, but it was good.
I thought it was phenomenal.
It was so good. And so yesterday's training,
it's all about collapsing time. How do you get really good really quick? And it's not to get good for our own sake of being good, so people can love what we do, but it's so that we can be more impactful in people's lives.
Because the better you teach, the more quickly you can transform people's lives. I throw that word out, transform. What does that mean? That means radically change how they feel about themselves. Radically change the relationship they have with themselves. And this is the juice of it, guys. This is it's easy to get caught up in the idea of yoga being all about gymnastics and yoga poses themselves. And this is where a lot of people, I'd say the majority of people that, when you say yoga, think, oh, poses. So we're doing these things. This up dog, this down dog, this warrior, this thing. And that's just a catalyst. That's just a simple piece to get people to a place of revolution, to a place where they cultivate a deep love for themselves. And this is what's lacking in everybody, right? This lack of understanding, this lack of true connection with themselves, which creates true connection with other people, which creates true connection with your life purpose. It's the catalyst for it all. So what we're saying is that we can get really good really fast. And again, really good at teaching means I can help people wake up really quick. I can help people get to a different level in their lives. Whether it's even just getting up in the morning, not having low back pain. That's revolutionary for people. Someone that wakes up every morning and has low back pain. Huge, right? It changes their entire life. And that, a lot of times, is just the first step. And as they practice more and more, they start to wake up here, and life gets really, really good, really fast. So that was yesterday.
Yeah, so every time we start a teacher training, one of the very first questions we ask is, how many of you right now feel like, as far as your practice, your physical practice is concerned, you're not ready to be here? And I swear, it's 95%. There's one courageous person that's no, I feel confident in myself. But everyone else is me. You just pegged me. I feel like I'm faking it, and I'm not good enough, and I need to be able to do X, Y, and Z pose, and I'm not there, and I feel like I'm nervous about it.
I'm only practicing for 6 months, or I've only been practicing for a year, I've only been practicing for 2 years, whatever. In our minds, that wasn't enough, because I'm not doing X pose, I'm not doing press-up handstands, I'm not doing floats, I'm not doing full back bends and touching my back of my head to my butt, right? I'm not doing these crazy poses that I see in Instagram feeds or I see in online. And this is the huge misnomer with yoga. This is the biggest mistake, is that people mistake that, the gymnastics of that, for yoga and the true practice. And it is so much more. And this is what so where Chris was going with this is everyone feels the same way. They step in teacher training, they're like, yeah, I don't feel like physically, like my practice, I don't think it's strong enough yet. And it always is. And we'll get into the reasons why. So
Yeah, exactly. So here, teacher training, sneak peek. Secret number 2. Let's do it back and forth. Don't.
No. You don't have to have a perfect practice to be able to teach. You don't have to have a perfect practice to be able to teach. This is huge. So many people that would be phenomenal teachers. So many people that could step into a room and make major changes in people's lives. Don't, because of this misunderstanding. That's all it is. It's a misunderstanding. It's this idea that I have to have this phenomenal practice first, and then I can be a teacher. Or I have to know how to do these crazy poses because I'm going to teach a class and there's going to be someone that comes in and they're going to have a phenomenal practice. And how do I help them? How do I help them get to another level in their practice? Well, we cover that in teacher training. We cover this idea that you don't have to do the craziest poses, and you can still help people do crazy poses if that's what they want. But the deeper understanding is what we just said before. The deeper understanding of this, guys, is that the practice is not about going crazy with gymnastics. It's not about doing the craziest poses. We'll get deeper into that in just a little bit.
Yeah, so this the very thing that keeps people that may have kept you, it's all good, that may have kept you from starting yoga in the beginning. This feeling that like you weren't like physically capable enough, whether it's I wasn't flexible enough, I wasn't strong enough. Over the 20 plus years we've been teaching, so many people have been like, yeah, I feel like I need to like work out before I'm able to go do yoga. I feel like I need to like go stretch before I'm able to do yoga because like I'm not flexible enough to do yoga. And it's one of those like weird beliefs that like the very thing that yoga is designed to do as far as the physical is concerned is what yoga is gonna give you. Like to try to like prep for it before you get in just doesn't make any sense. Like if you're thirsty, you don't prepare to drink water, you just drink water, right? If you're inflexible, you're tight, you're stressed, you don't need to prepare to do yoga, you just go and do yoga. If you want to do a teacher training, like the preparation of doing yoga is just to be on your mat and practice, regardless of what your physical capability is. And because the first thing is that our job as teachers is to get you there, wherever that is. So we're not saying the physical, we're not discounting it completely, because it is important that you've had the experience as a teacher of being on your mat consistently, so that you can speak from a place of experience when your students talk to you about the struggles of what they're dealing with as a beginning student, the tightness that they feel, the potential aches that they have, so that you can speak from a place of experience to help them. But it gets what happens is the mind then twists that into I need to be able to do advanced poses. I need to be able to like press up into a handstand, to be able to speak from experience to get people there. And there's a point at which your practice has gotten so like it's advanced enough so that you're at like the upper like 3/4 of the people. Like you're in the 75th percentile of anybody who will ever come into yoga. Like they're not looking for gymnastics, they're looking for physical relief of inflexibility, of pain and aches and bodies, of relief of the injuries that have been plaguing them for years. They're looking for relief of stress. And so your ability to teach the advanced stuff, really what you're saying is like, I just want to teach to like a very small percentage of people. What we want is an effective teacher who can teach to anyone who comes into their orbit, anyone who comes into their class. And because it is important to teach from experience, our job as teachers is to give you the full breakdown of what it means, of what every pose, the alignment. And so there's a framework that we use to break down every single pose so that you can look at it and know, not just for your own practice, because that's crazy valuable to be in the teacher training and get this type of detailed information about every pose in the full detail. I'll break it down on the whiteboard in just a second, but go ahead. Where's it going? So it's super valuable for your own practice, but it's even more valuable in your ability to teach someone in that framework so that they know where the beginning level is. They know how to modify if there's an injury going on for them, or if there's just a level of inflexibility or limited range of motion. They know what the next level is for how to deepen. They know what that next level is to go deeper. And quite honestly, like some people who have advanced practices aren't really good teachers. We'll go into that in a little bit. Let me check this out.
So, we're going to touch on this a little bit later, but I just want to bring up the point because Chris just talked about it, and it's extremely valuable. Is that when you hear somebody, if you practice all the time and you've fallen in love with it, like we all do, and you're trying to convert, you're trying to like get your significant other in, you're like, oh my God, you got to try this yoga thing. Obviously they see the change in you, they see the shift happen, but then you're like, come on, let's practice, or a friend, come on, let's practice. And Chris and I get it all the time. So a lot of our buddies they're into martial arts, or they're into lifting, or into some other CrossFit or something else, and we're like, you gotta try yoga. And they're like, yeah, I'm not flexible enough, yeah, I don't know if I want to do it. But what they're really saying, this is what they're really saying is, when they say I'm not flexible enough, is I don't want to go into a room with a bunch of flexible people that know what they're doing and be that one person that's awkward, that everyone looks at like, oh, he or she, oh yeah, that's the new person. Because what they're saying is it's not about really being inflexible, it's about not looking like you belong. And we all want to belong. So the same exact belief happens with teaching. Is that, well, what if I walk into a room and all of these people expect me to have this high level practice, and I'm like, okay, I gotta teach a handstand, but I don't know how to do a handstand. How do I teach a handstand to people if I've never done a handstand? What's gonna happen? Oh, everyone's gonna look at me and like, oh, I'm a bad teacher, and then never mind, I will never be a teacher. I'm not gonna be a teacher. It's the same idea, right? It's this idea that we're not good enough. We're gonna jump into it a little bit later as another piece of it.
We're just so excited to go there. We're like,
but this is it. This is it. It's all mindset. So much of it's just mindset. So I'll back up a little bit. We'll jump back into this. Chris wrote down the 5 major pieces. This is beautiful. If you decide, no, I'm never going to teach, I just want to see you guys teach this stuff, and you're here just to get your own stuff, this is good stuff, right? Because this is, if you understand these 5 points, when you get yourself into a pose, you're like, oh, okay, this is the checklist when I get into a pose of what I should be doing, right? And as a teacher, this is everything, right? This is the checklist that you want to do. This is the framework that you want to go through when you're cueing out a pose, when you're guiding people through an experience.
Yeah. So just for FYI, if a friend of yours has ever taken you to yoga and they've taken you to a level 2 class, they are not your friend. Just want to throw that out there. We get people who are like, he's never been to yoga before in his life. He hasn't even heard the word yoga, and he's coming to a level 2 class. What we call the big girl class. Mm-hmm. Man, not a friend. Mm-hmm. Maybe. Okay, so anyway, back to what we're talking about. So every pose is broken down in 5 ways. The basic body position. So what does that mean? Basic body position is like, okay, if John is in a, we want to see half view, like a chair, yeah, let's do a warrior 2. You're not going to be able to see his legs. But like, you got to know where the legs are going. You got to know what the arms are doing. How's the upper torso position? What are the feet positioning? Like, it's just literally the basic body position. Every single pose has a basic body position, and that's where we start. This is what people need to know to be able to get into the pose. Now, next level is, well, how do you modify the pose? Meaning, how do you make it easier? If I'm new, I want to know how to modify. Or maybe I'm not new, but I'm nursing an injury, like with a hip or a knee, and I need to know how can I practice in a way that I'm not going to like exacerbate the injury. Because yoga can be really helpful in healing if we know how to modify. And so that's the next level. Like in Warrior 2, it's don't bend as much into the knees. When I was in my mid-20s, I sprained my left ankle. Like there was like a softball size, looked like a softball inside my ankle. And I still practiced on it. Like I had to rest a little bit, I had to put ice on it. But my Warrior 2, my feet were probably, no joke, like this is my Warrior 2, they were probably about 2 feet apart because any lateral pressure on that back foot would cause pain. But I could still practice knowing that if I bring my feet closer together, it elevates the hips, takes pressure off the knees, the hips, and the ankles, good to go. So that's how to modify. How do you make it easier whether you're injured or whether you're just new.
The next piece is how to deepen. And so as we practice more and more, our body becomes more open, and we need to know how to move towards a deeper expression. Right? How do I deepen? So if it's Warrior 2, we're just simply lowering the hips, making sure that knee stays over the ankle, and if we go lower and it starts to travel over the toes, let's spread the, excuse me,
And yet, if you watch the video, Jenny, you know we're martial artists, so like he hits me, I'm like, what? Just kidding, I'm super love peace, happiness.
We spread the feet out wider, so alignment stays there, but it's how do I deepen the pose, right? The next one is the deepest expression. So as I'm deepening, or as a teacher, I'm cueing people how to deepen the pose, I'm going to talk about what the deepest expression is. For those who want to go there. Right? So for those who can, who those want to, or have practiced long enough that their body's open or strong enough to get to the deepest expression. So I want to throw it out. And then for newer students who aren't, they have a sense of, oh, this is where I'll be going, right? This is the path. And then the last piece is how to exit. How do I get out of this thing? Right? If I'm in a pose, whatever the pose is, how do I get out? If it's a flow class, sometimes the exit will be into another pose, so there'll be transition. If it's a stability class, the exit will be the reverse of how you got into it. But as a teacher, we want to teach how do I exit? And as a student, we want to know, all right, how do I get myself out of this thing? So that is the 5 steps to teaching a pose, the 5 steps to moving through a pose. Right? Basic body position, how do I modify? If there's modification, how do I deepen? What is the deepest expression? And how do I exit? How do we get out of it?
So number 2, and why the whole idea that you need to have a perfect practice before you become a teacher is completely ridiculous, is your students, they don't need to start where you are, they need to start where they are. I'll break that down. So your students, you can take it if you want, John.
Don't need to start where you are, they need to start where they are. There was, so if you saw the movie Catch Me If You Can, the movie was about Frank, help me with his last name?
Abagnale.
Abagnale. I think I ask Chris that every single time. Abagnale. Frank Abagnale. And he was basically just out of high school, right? He dropped out of high school, I think. He was young. And he, if you saw the movie, he got himself into all of these jobs. He was basically a con man, but got himself into all these jobs that you're like, how? So for instance, when the FBI caught him and they were asking the exact same question, like, Frank, how did you do this? Like, you were a con man, you did this, and he was an airline pilot. I don't think he ever flew planes, but he was puddle jumping. He was jumping on planes, going all over the place. One of the biggies was he did a whole semester as a professor at a university. Whole semester. So, and they were like, well, and it was advanced sociology, I think, something like that, right? It was an advanced class. He taught the whole class. Had students sitting in front of him. He's teaching the class, guys. He didn't have the education to teach it. The FBI agent was like, how'd you do it? He's like, I just read the chapter before I taught. I just read the chapter. He said I was 1 chapter ahead of the students, and I just taught that chapter. I was 1 chapter ahead of the students. I just taught the chapter. Now what we're saying is, we're not trying to be con people or anything. We're saying like, I watched YouTube and saw this pose, and saw this class, and I taught the class. What we're saying is that you only have to be 1 step ahead of your people to help them. The students that were in Frank's class, they got benefit from what he was saying, even if he was just teaching the chapter ahead. Right? Does this make sense? You only have to be a step ahead to make an impact on somebody's life. This is the takeaway from that. Like, we're not trying to con people or anything like that, but you don't have to have this incredibly advanced practice. You just have to have some time spent in the practice. You just have to be a step ahead to help people transform. And what I'll add to that is, if somebody comes in and they have an advanced practice, you just have to know the techniques of putting together a beautiful vessel. The techniques to put together a beautiful vessel, because somebody having an advanced practice does not translate to somebody being able to teach a beautiful class. You just have to know the steps to put together this beautiful experience and just be a few steps ahead of the majority of your class, and you will change lives. You will make an impact in people's lives, and this is the key.
The problem with this is that we frame what we think is important and where we are, and we superimpose that on where our students are. And here's the truth, like the majority of students, even like we've been teaching, we had Hot House Yoga for like we're in our 14th year, and there is so many new students still coming in. Like we've got seasoned people that have been there for a long time, and there's classes that we teach where like everyone's been practicing for over 5 years, but like the majority of the classes are students who have been practicing for 1 year or less. So back to the basic body position, how to modify, how to deepen, what's the deepest expression? If you know how to go there, even if you can't do the deepest expression, who you're really going to be teaching to are the people who need the basic body position. They need to know how to modify, and just a basic level of how do you go deeper. And this is just what happens. So it's really, really important that you don't place where you are in a negative light as if you're not going to be able to serve the people who are going to be in front of you. Because they don't need you to, like, they don't need to know where you are and to start where you are. As a teacher, our best thing, the highest goal we have is to understand where they are and to teach them their next step. This is why the Frank Abagnale story is so important, is that if we've been practicing, we've been on our mats, and we've just been putting in the effort, then we're going to perpetually be a step ahead of the people coming in. Which means we'll always have an evolution in our practice so that they can always be supported in their practice, and it's just this beautiful, like, I'm just willing to teach you what I know. And if I don't know, man, I've got the humility to say I don't know. And I can't tell you, like, there's a super, like, we think that we need to be perfect, right? And all of us, we have this, like, we walk around, we try to be perfect. Like, look at, like, anybody's Instagram account, look at ours, like, we filter everything, because it's social. It stays there. We want it to be perfect. We want to look perfect. But there's like the idea of like this perfect practice and this perfect life. It's ridiculous. It's not. It doesn't exist. And one of the best things we can do as teachers is to be real with our students and to say, I don't know. I don't know, but I can help you get to this next level. And if I don't know, I'll help find it out. That like honest truthfulness, that vulnerability of saying I don't know. That's what people like, that's when they'll really come back to your classes. It's not because you have a perfect practice, because you're unrelatable. But when you're able to teach, like, man, this is my struggles. I'm still, right now, if you're in a class, you're like, I can't do that. I can teach you through it because I understand how to go into the deepest expression, but physically, I'm not there yet. When you're open like that, man, that's what draws people to you. That's where you create that connection, because people, like, they love it in a way that, like, it's not that they love, like, the struggle that you're going through. They love it that you're making yourself a human being.
It's grounded.
Yeah.
It's grounded. You're relatable. They feel more connected. It's like, oh, you were where I am now, and maybe not that long ago. Like there's a level of because when you teach yoga, when you're doing this, and you have it dialed in, you're going and teaching good classes. Students can put you on a pedestal really easily. And if you knock yourself off the pedestal, it's so helpful, it's so grounding for them, because it helps them get better faster, it helps them learn. It's like, oh, okay, he's still working on it. Like we all are. We're all still working on this practice, right? This practice of life, right? Which is yoga is the cheat code, guys. That's straight up it. Yoga is the cheat code for this practice of life. All right, enough of that. So,
what I'm writing is just the best teachers are just simply honest about their struggles, about where they are. And that's what creates this connection between your students and you as a teacher. I'm going to write it and then I'm going to flip the page. I'm going to write it and then I'm going to flip the page. When I talk that way, I'm pretty sure the live people can't get that.
yeah.
It's all good. Okay, so number 2, in the books, best teachers are the ones that are honest about their struggles, honest about where they are in their practice, and understand that they still have value. They can teach anyone who's coming in because they've been through the process of being a beginner, and they're willing to share the path.
I can't tell you how many times, just to add to this, I can't tell you how many times that Chris and I have been in a class teaching or even in teacher training, and a student will ask a question about, I don't know, something. Like, so something they studied on in a book, or something they studied online, or something about yoga, and they'll ask us, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know about that. I haven't heard about it, but I'll find out. Try to give you better information based off what I do know. Right? So it happens. It happens over and over again. In the past, where I was with that is, I was uncomfortable. I was uncomfortable saying I don't know. I was uncomfortable because I wanted to know, because I put myself in this position of I should know. I'm trying to help. I'm trying to be an expert in my industry, in my category, in this realm of teaching. And so for me to say I don't know felt really uncomfortable. But after doing it, and after realizing that there's a lot of things I don't know, we teach nutrition, and there's ideas. As you know, the teaching of nutrition is all over the board, just like a lot of things. But we'll be teaching it, and then someone will say, well, what about this style of diet? What about paleo? Or what about veganism? Or what about this in this realm? And I've heard this teaching and how this affects about. And sometimes like, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know what the best practice is there. So I'll look it up and see if I can help you with it. It's okay and it's better than okay to be vulnerable. It's the most important thing we can do. Is to let down this idea of we have to be perfect in our realm. To say, I'm going to be effective at what I do because I'm going to put in the work to know, and then when I bump up against something that I don't know, I'm not going to try to make something up. I'm going to say, I don't know, but I'll find out for you. So number 3, here we go. Can I read this one?
Yes, you may. Carry on.
The best practitioners are not always the best teachers. The best practitioners are not always the best teachers.
When we were going through teacher training, we talked about it in yesterday's training. We went through our first teacher was Jimmy Barkin. As far as like who we went through our teacher training with, and he knew one individual. I won't name him because he may be watching. No, just
Probably not.
Definitely not. And he said, like, as far as like in the Bikram yoga world, he was the high watermark, like the best at both the right and the left side. He said, as far as a balanced practice, because we all have like asymmetries. If you're right-handed, you have a dominant side that's stronger and another side that's more flexible, and it happens like there's asymmetries all throughout the body. So to be able to like perform advanced poses on one side and equally as good and advanced on the other side is like crazy challenging. It takes an incredible amount of work. Now this person had like one of the most advanced practices in that style of Bikram yoga and had maybe the most boring, unimaginative, and heartless classes. No judgment, just discernment. This is what our teacher said. Like he wasn't engaging. He couldn't articulate how he got there. Some people who are effortless, like when they come in, if they've had like a gymnastics background and they come in and all of a sudden they do a handstand, they have the hardest time actually teaching people how to get there because they've forgotten how they got there.
They forgot the work. All the hard work they put in to get good, to get to where they are. Maybe it's been that long, and it's been so long ago that they can't articulate the path. And this is what happens a lot. It's people that are just phenomenal practitioners, technicians, but when it comes to teaching, horrible. They can't connect it. There's no framework. There's no understanding of how I can educate this person in such a way that gets them really good really fast. At some point, advanced postures will not make you a better teacher. And this is the key, and it comes back down to, I think what was said a couple times in the beginning, is that this practice is not about gymnastics. Yoga has nothing to do with advanced poses. Some of you watching right now are like, what? I've been spending years trying to do a handstand, and you're going to tell me once I got my handstand down, it doesn't mean anything? No, we're not saying that. What we are saying is that the ability for you to do a handstand is not going to create a better marriage for you, right? Your ability to do a handstand is not going to create a better relationship with yourself. Your ability to do a handstand is not going to create the ability to have a better work life, a better intimate relationship, a better relationship with food, with money, with all of these components that make up the practice of life. What we're saying is that an advanced practice does not make you more skillful at the practice of life. Yoga is the cheat code for life, guys. This practice, what we do, is the cheat code for life. It gets you really good at life really fast. Advanced poses don't equate to advanced life practice. Now, the practice, the work, the forging, the discipline, the steadfastness, the commitment to practicing an advanced pose, to learning how to do a handstand, there's benefit to that, right? There's the ability to focus on a goal and say, okay, I'm going to work on it, and work on it, and work on it, and work on it, and eventually get to that goal. But it's not the goal. It's the person you become on your way to it. That's the juice of this, guys. So you could have the most advanced practice, but that doesn't mean you're an advanced yoga practitioner. It starts at some point to get a little bit more into a gymnastic state. And really what it comes down to, Chris, I'm going to jump to Chris's thought right now. Stop.
I'm inceptioning you, dude. I'm like planning. I'm just planning. Everything he's saying is for me. I'm just like, throw it into his brain.
If you want to get really good at advanced poses, get a gymnastics coach.
That is exactly what I was going to say. No shit. So, this will be one of the last things we say before we end this. It goes back to what is yoga really about? Like, why did it start? And why has it been around for 6,000 years? Because it wasn't around for that long in its current form. Meaning with the up dogs and the down dogs and all the different poses. Because everyone thinks of yoga, they think of like what you do in a class. It's good, physical, it's what we talked about. Like, man, it's so valuable to be able to get out of pain, to get like this vibrant, healthy being of like walking around and not being in pain and like being able to like play and have fun and keep your passions alive. For us, it's like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and surfing and all that. There's like value to that. But there's a point at which that will no longer help alleviate the suffering that's in your life. And that's why yoga has been around for 6,000 years. That's why it started 6,000 years ago, is specifically to help alleviate suffering. And that suffering is in here. It's the mental trappings, it's the mental affliction, it's the compulsion to keep thinking, it's the how we identify ourselves with the most messed up parts of our history and how we withhold like love from ourselves because of the mistakes that we've made, and then we can't like give that love to other people, and we have strained relationships, and we're overvaluing work and making money when that we're not going to take any of that with us. And so like we have our values are all messed up and our priorities are all messed up, and we have all this dysfunctional thinking, and like we're stressed out, and then no wonder our bodies are a mess because we're not doing it. So like if we go back to like doing the practice, why it started, and we teach in that spirit within this new modern way of approaching it through the physical, all of a sudden you can be the most effective life-transforming teacher. And again, not because you do a handstand, but because you're able to relate in a class to your students that nuance of what are we really doing here? What is this really about? Is it all about the physical? No. There's a cultivation of your awareness, of impulse control, of empathy, the ability to feel someone else, like what they're feeling, to step in their shoes and to see life from their eyes, and then to take the actions to not be lost in thought where we're just reacting to everything. We feel like this is just who I am, but to be able to like stop that, put a pause on the mind so that we can respond and choose how we want to relate to life. Like this is what we mean, and this is what we teach in our teacher trainings. Like this is the deeper aspect. What John said, the point of the goal of becoming a teacher and the way we see it isn't to then be a teacher, it's the person you become on your way to achieving it. Which means that when you do decide to teach, who you become is what you share with the people. Who you become is what they experience as this beautiful class of like, man, they're sharing their own hardships, their own insights into what the struggles that they've experienced, so that I can have an epiphany and help change how I see my life, myself, and the world that I live in. Like, this is the value of becoming a teacher.
Yeah. Mark Twain said it well. He said, I'll paraphrase a little bit, it's right, not exactly. He said, I've known a great many pains in my life, most of which never happened. What he's saying is that that's yoga. Most of the pains that we experience, most of the suffering we experience in our life, is all calls from this, and most of which have never actually unfolded. It's just our perception of experiences, our projection into the future, our projection into the past. We rarely spend quality time in the moment where we're present and watching life unfold in front of us, present for our significant others as they're talking to us, present for our kids as they're wanting to play with us, right? Present for our coworker as they're trying to share a moment with us. This is what Mark Twain was saying. This is why yoga's been around for 6,000 years, not in the form of up dogs and down dogs. That's just a few hundred years old, right? In the form of the ability to relieve suffering in our lives. The ability to relieve suffering in our lives. This is why it has legs. This is why it's lasted thousands of years. This is why it's still around today, and why it is not going away. And it isn't, again, it is not about doing crazy advanced poses. It's about how can I most effectively help people relieve that suffering, relieve that pain that they're in.
This is what the world needs. And so if you're interested in like becoming a teacher, and what you've heard from us today is like resonated with you, please, there's gonna be a link. Click the link, fill out an application, and see if it's right. Just take that one next step. There's no exchange of money. You don't have to like commit to the whole thing right now, but just take the next step and fill out an application so that our director, Peggy Campbell, she's like a beautiful human being. Just to talk to her for a little bit is like, it's enlightening. It's uplifting. It's inspirational. I swear, she's awesome. And just have a conversation and see if it's right. She's super honest. She's not going to like force you to do it. She'll see if it's right in your life, and if it's not, and then maybe it's just not the time. But if you don't click the link and you don't apply, then you may not know. And so what we know is that people need more yoga teachers who are teaching in that spirit of helping people on like the heart level, on the mind level, and on the physical level. Don't get it strong, but man, more so the heart, the mind, because that's really what's trapping us in these patterns of suffering. And so we would love for you to check it out, to see if it's right for you.
Yeah, and when you fill out an application, she'll look over it and she'll see if it's a right fit, because we don't take everybody. It has to be a good fit for us too, right? So you're a good fit, we're a good fit, and it feels right. Peggy will work through that process, and we'll see you on the other side.
Thank you.